Journey into the process of creating tomorrow's Changemakers with Elaine Olsen, founder of Fourth Space, which creates space and gardens to shape the changemakers who will shape the world we live in. Elaine tells of the 3 pivotal events that influenced her awakening from her 20-year career in public sector government to work in a manner that made her feel truly alive and creative, and in turn lead her to her focus with Fourth Space. Elaine beautifully explains how the key elements to future changemakers rest with deeper levels of listening, questioning, and connection to those around you in such a way that you are more open to new ideas, collaboration, and actually feel moved to want to change from the inside out. It is focusing on the actual experience, letting go, and leaning into what presents from the unknown that yields the most pertinent learnings and solutions, rather than an overemphasis on results and outcomes. This is a super powerful conversation from a wonderfully grounded lady that contains a deep sense of knowing about where we as human beings need to truly focus on to yield the real answers that will shape a fundamentally different paradigm for a different tomorrow that is very required right now. So enjoy Elaine.
Hello and welcome back to WA Real. I'm your host, Bryn Edwards. Schooling the changemakers of tomorrow to proactively build a new tomorrow are just some of the things we'll be exploring with my guest today, Elaine Olsen. Elaine, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Bryn.
Indeed. So I always like to explore with my guests at the start just how they have come to be in Western Australia. You're originally born and bred in Malaysia. Mm-hmm. How did you end up here?
I came here for a visit on holiday to visit my sister, who was here as an international student at that time. And I met my husband-to-be on this river cruise that we were both on. Just randomly, we were with separate groups of friends. We connected and fell in love and got married. And
all on that trip?
No, that didn't happen quite like that.
It was a super whirlwind.
Yes, it happened over a period of 6 short months, actually.
Right.
And Kent is originally from Denmark, but he's a resident of Australia, and he'd been living here for about 20 years. Right. And we connected really well, and Perth has always been his home. And that's how we met, and that's how I came to be in Australia. And Western Australia has always been the place that I've stayed in. I've never really lived in any other parts of Australia at all. So this is how I came to be in WA.
Awesome. Mm. As you were growing up in Malaysia, did you know much about Western Australia?
We did learn a little bit about WA through geography books. And first thing I learned was that Perth has a Mediterranean climate, and we also learnt about Kalgoorlie and the gold mining that happens there.
Oh, right.
So there were bits and pieces of history that we learnt about, and the geography as well, but not much more than that.
Right. And so you now consider this home?
For sure, yes. This is home in every sense of the word. I feel like I belong here now.
Right.
And I've got my mum and dad here too, and a sister.
Right.
So they're close by.
So you shuffled the whole family across.
Yes, this is what happens with the Asian family thing. You don't just have mum and dad and siblings. Mum and dad also have sisters and brothers, and the whole extended family is also here.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Land and expand.
Yes. Which is great.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm missing family.
Right.
They're here with me, yes. Mm.
What are some of the things that you enjoy now here?
Doing a lot of camping, bushwalking, spending time by the beach, all real Aussie stuff that I'm into, yes. And I do read quite a lot of books as well, but in terms of things that I do here in WA that keeps me happy is just being outdoors and connecting with nature. That's something I've always leaned towards, but I think I have discovered also a deeper connection to nature as a result of my growth in different ways.
Awesome. So, as I alluded to in the introduction, you've got a strong focus of playing your part in shaping the future with your company Fourth Space and your work with the Ankle Collective.
Yes.
Where does that strong focus come from in Elaine's story? Is it something you've always had, or is it something that switched on?
I guess it switched on. It was never in me, and I am a late bloomer in terms of making a difference and wanting to create change. So it wasn't until I was in my late 40s did I experience a sense of coming alive. And accompanying that sense of feeling alive was this really compelling, strong urge to actually co-create a different kind of future for the next generation. So I've got 2 grown children, and I've watched them struggle in different ways and realized that we need to be creating a different kind of future that is about being alive, that takes care of community and people, and also nourishes the planet that we live on. So that came about because I would myself experience this sense of awakening.
Right. Can you tell us a bit more about this awakening?
Yes, I can. It sort of started when I joined an innovation program in a government department.
So you've been working for the government for a good 20 odd years.
Yes. So I was a public servant at the mid-levels and did that for well over 20 years. Got some satisfaction and some rewards from that, but never really felt 100% satisfied.
What drew you to work in a government department in the first place? Just out of interest.
It was an opportunity to have a stable job. It was an opportunity to make a good income.
Right.
And that was probably the 2 main reasons why I joined the public sector.
Things you should do.
Yes, correct.
Right.
And it was easy to move into that mode of working and being.
And what sort of things did you do during your 20 years, just at a summary level?
Sure. Mainly, I started as a librarian, and did that for about 7 years, and then moved into policy roles, and dabbled in areas like international trade and development, executive recruitment, a bit of e-government, and a bit of IT as well. So bits and bobs, and it was with different government departments. So I didn't stay in just one department, but
so there's a bit of variety in that.
And it was interesting and it was fine, but wasn't fully satisfying for me. And I only knew that because I did this job in
tell
innovation.
Us about the job.
Pardon?
Tell us about the job that brought about the awakening.
It was an innovation program, and my only brief was to foster a culture of innovation. And I literally could do whatever I wanted. I was able to give full expression to my creativity, and I just flowered. And it was a gradual process. It didn't just happen overnight.
Was that scary at first?
No, it was very innovating and life-giving, because I had suddenly discovered something I was really passionate about, and I loved doing it. And I think it was because of this love of doing what I was doing that I just experienced this sense of I need to be doing more of this sort of stuff.
Yes.
And then when I was given the chance to leave government, I thought to myself, I need to be inspiring and enabling others to feel the same sort of aliveness as well. So
Is that part of the impact that drives you on?
yes, that I'm not the only one that should experience this, that this needs to be on a whole scale, needs to be at a systems-wide level. This needs to really be for humankind in a way, because it's so precious and it's so fantastic, and it should not just be the domain of a few individuals that have experienced that awakening. So yes, that's how it sort of started.
So, kind of, where'd you go from there then? It's one thing, I imagine it's one thing having this awakening within the cradle of the government job, but then to actually decide to leave it after 20 years and go and strike out. Did you go strike out by yourself, or?
I had no job to go to, so I did float around for a little bit. But by that time, I had joined Ankle, and Ankle probably was the third part of my awakening. So the second part of my awakening after doing that innovation job was this huge pilgrimage that I did across northern Spain called the Camino de Santiago.
Which is one of the ultimate pilgrimages.
Yes, and that again kind of awakened me in a different way as well. So not only was it physically demanding and mentally challenging, but it also connected me with myself, and I found a kind of spirit. So hence, I guess, why the Camino is known as a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
You do find a kind of spirit that you never knew you had. So that was the second part of my awakening. And then the third part was when I decided to become really active in Ankle, and joining a group of people that believe in alternative futures and saw a different way of thinking, doing, and being opened up my eyes to things like sensing a different kind of future, being co-creative, being okay with uncertainty, leaning into what is presenting itself in that moment, and not being too hung up on results or outcomes or a definite destination or a goal that you want to aim for, but the whole thing of being on a journey was much more important. And I think I realized that through doing what I did with Ankle, I threw myself wholeheartedly into it, and it was me that wanted to do it. Just mingling with that sort of people and in that milieu just made me feel really open. Yes.
It's selecting your peer group, isn't it? And then being part of that vibe, that frequency, that energy and things brought to mind. So tell me about Fourth Space and creating future change makers.
So the Fourth Space is a prototype. So it's a prototype of a change-making entity. The first prototype I tried with Ankle, and then I had a second prototype that I did with two other people, and this is my third iteration. So this is where the whole aspect of design thinking comes into the way I'm approaching my life, is that how do I create opportunities that build upon each opportunity rather than aim for the ultimate thing. So the Fourth Space is a prototype of what I'd like to see emerge in my future. And it is about running innovation labs at this moment, social innovation labs, and a lot of that learning and knowledge I've gained that I've prepared for the Fourth Space has come about through a couple of important change-making courses that I've been on.
Right.
And they've been catalysts in further creating more growth for me. So running innovation labs, running social labs is about creating a
Tell me
learning
what is
journey.
a social innovation lab?
It's got that definite strong people focus.
Yes.
It's got that connection to community.
Mm-hmm.
It's about building social capital. And
What does that mean for the uninitiated listener?
social capital is about the capacity of people and communities to be a source of innovation and a source for good. And it's
Right.
about connection and well-being and belonging. And that capital, as opposed to financial capital, is what is needed to take us to the next level of human growth. That's my interpretation anyway.
I love it.
And we don't give enough credence to the importance of social capital.
It seems to come sort of, bottom on the list of important things.
Yes, we seem to be focused on making money. We want a financial economy, but we don't take into consideration the people's side of things as much as we should do. And I think now we're seeing sort of the not so good effects of that sort of economy, where it's all about profit and growth, and there's only so much that we can grow
In that sphere.
That's right.
Yeah, because if you think about it as well, I see it a lot in individuals around me who put themselves last as well, and then you start to see things deteriorate for themselves, which is a microcosm of what potentially is happening on the planet as well. So, I guess if I was to come along to your lab,
Yes.
and be one of your, let's put it this way, your guinea pigs,
Yes.
what would I experience?
So
Bearing in mind, my understanding of it is I'd be a bit too old for fourth space. Is that right? Is it 21 to 35s?
Oh, actually, I think I need to review that.
Okay. Anyway, we'll come back to that. But anyway,
Yes.
as a guinea pig, what would I experience?
You would experience the art of deep listening, the art of dialogues, the opportunity to connect with others at a deeper level, where you are being more empathetic. You would experience coaching circles. You would experience this deeper connection with others in such a way that you'd be more open to new ideas, more open to collaboration, and more ready to change yourself so that you can change things around you. Sounds like a big ask, but
powerful.
and it's really hard to describe it because it has to be experienced to be understood in a way. And it is a learning journey because you're first of all learning about yourself, and you have to be able to want to change yourself first before you can embark on any change-making activity. Otherwise, whatever change you want to create will be hollow. And so the change must first occur within yourself. And so that's the premise that we work with.
Be the change in the world you want to see.
Yes.
It's really interesting what you're talking about there in terms of coaching circles, deep listening. That's part of that is what I've created here with the podcast. I'd end up listening to people, the lost art of listening, and sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you're really good at it, Bryn. What makes you so good?" And glibly, half the time I say it's two things. I ask questions and then I shut the fuck up. And I listen to the actual answer. But it's really fascinating that you should use those as components, because, well, Imagine it, to start with, it would take some effort to hold those components because they're not readily seen or accessed or in everyday life. Is that?
Yes, it is actually quite difficult to listen deeply, and for most of us, there's 4 levels of listening. This is something that I've learned from a course called Theory U, and it's this really important meta change framework that I've been exposed to. So there's 4 levels of listening. So level 1 is when you're downloading information that you already know. And level 2 listening is when you're learning something new. Level 3 listening is when you're beginning to take a more empathetic view. So you're able to step into somebody else's shoes and see it from their perspective. Level 4 listening is really cool because this is when you are so present in your listening that when somebody is speaking, you begin to feel a shift within yourself and you begin to feel very different. And I think a lot of us have experienced that when we've listened to inspirational speakers.
Yes.
You're so entranced by it. And when they finish speaking, you go, wow, I am inspired. I feel different.
Yes.
I need to go out and do something now. I need to be doing something that makes a change. So that's level 4 listening. That's when your whole being is kind of engaged, but it's more than being engaged. It's just really being super present.
That's really interesting.
And that not many people can be at that level of listening because it takes practice. And when we're not listening at that level, we're often building up the moment to say what we want to say in response. And we're also having voices in our head, discounting what the other person's saying, belittling them, or...
I don't like their accent, don't like their t-shirt.
Yes.
The way they're presenting that's pretty annoying.
Yes, and then there's also the voices of judgment and voices of fear.
This is crap.
Yes. So the art of listening deeply is to be aware of those voices.
Yeah.
And being conscious of them so that it doesn't become you.
That's super interesting because I imagine everyone at some point has, for whatever reason, been transfixed by somebody they've been to hear talk or 5 to 7 minute YouTube clip that a friend has sent them, and it's just like hit the mark. It's almost like that level 4 listening's been cracked open through luck rather than design.
Yes, and there's also something about listening from the whole. And this is for me, it's about being so aware of where you are at that precise moment, that something is actually stepping in from the future and landing ever so softly into your lap. And it is the future calling you to doing something different or amazing or cool.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
But you know,
yes,
you feel it.
Yes, that's right. And it is the call of the future. And then the next step, of course, is to take action. And then there's a lot of us who move into the actionless mind, where you are paralyzed by thinking too much, by your voices of fear, by your voices of judgment, and then that actionless mind stops you then from leaning into your future. And then opportunities are missed. And so this is where the whole idea of prototyping is really important, because I have this vision. I want to build a school for change makers, but I can't possibly build one right now. So these are my prototypes. The 4th space is a prototype that builds towards that future, because if I want to aim to build this huge school that has 10 stories in it, I don't know what it would look like, to be honest. Yes. But imagining if it was a 10-story building, it had 600 people working in it, can't possibly build that now. But just by starting small with my little fourth space, creating these little learning journeys with teams and organizations that want to go on it. It's my chance to actually prototype my ideas so that I don't scare myself too much with this huge visionary thing that may be actually unachievable at the end. So I just go with these prototypes that enable me to build towards what I feel could be possible. And the thing that comes at the end of it may not be a 10-story building with 600 people working in it. It could be
Anything.
Yeah, little hubs that pop up around WA. That could be the school that I'm thinking of. And it's little mini schools. It could be a mobile school that travels around regional WA.
Just the spirit of a school.
Yes. And in fact, maybe the word school isn't quite right too, because I want it to be an alternative kind of education as well. So I play around with the word unschool sometimes.
An unschool.
An unschool. Because we have to unlearn the ways we've been taught and the way we've been educated.
In what way?
In what way?
Yeah.
So the way I've been taught and the way I see kids being taught now is that we spoon feed kids.
Yes.
And we stuff information down them.
Yes, we do.
And we hope, and usually we regurgitate everything, but there's no deep learning, there's no experiences, there are no real skills that are being learnt to actually get kids ready for a different kind of future, where the future that we know today is going to be, and tomorrow is going to be really different from what we know now. So we're still actually persisting with an industrial revolution type education system where kids sit in rows and they are treated like little robots and spoon-fed information, when we really need to be able to let them loose in lots of different ways.
Was it I read recently that if you took someone from the turn of the century or early last century and brought them now, everything would be unrecognisable except for school.
Perfect.
School would be the one place where they go, oh, I recognise this.
It hasn't changed very much from 100 years ago.
So how does one enlist in change-making course? Or stuff? Who typically you are attracting currently?
At the moment, I'm trying to attract organizations, and and I've approached a few people that understand the Theory U stuff.
It's popping up all over the place, Theory U.
Right. And
well, it is in my world.
Good. Good. I hope
and I've
that's...
had Adam Yurland talk about it.
Right.
Briefly.
Yes.
And you've taken it to more depth.
Yes. So I'm starting with people who understand some of the principles behind Theory U, because it's not an easy thing to communicate this learning journey. And people will often say, well, what's it got to do with my business? What's it got to do with making money? What's it got to do with the economy? And that's the hard part, because we are conditioned to be like that first, rather than take a step backwards and go, actually, if we want to be more innovative and we want to actually deliver new products and services, we actually need to allow our people to experience something new and different, so that they can come up with these ideas themselves, and they can actually help this organization move into the 21st century, and rather than be doing the same old. It is not business as usual. It is no longer business as usual. And I think there's evidence all around us to show that it's not business as usual. So
I think there's evidence to suggest that many of the systems and machinations and organisations and ways of being are not working. I think we can feel it. But then also, I think a previous podcast guest said, look at the canary birds that are around us, the high rates of suicide, the high rates of depression and anxiety. People don't go out their way just to be anxious and depressed. Yes, there's always going to be a small percentage of the bell curve at the top and bottom who are, for whatever reason, genetically wired or whatever to be like that, and that's always going to be the case. But that, we're talking fine grades, the top and bottom 5% or 2%. So why is the middle 96% suffering with prolific depression and anxiety? I would think that's a symptom. What are the causes? Many machines and systems and things in place that put the actual human... Oh my God. Here I am. And for the listeners, I always speak to my guests beforehand about switching their phones off.
My sincere apologies. I thought it was actually off.
I wish the listeners could see you're blushing.
I'm actually going to physically turn it off.
Right. But, back to the point being that it seems that everything that we live by is structured, like we said earlier on, with the real acknowledgement of the human journey being way down the list. And everything that is probably seems really, really important right now, money and stuff, is too far up the list of priorities in the design of it all. Is this what human design is about?
About money?
No, about putting humans first in the design of things.
I believe it is. Yes, I get a sense that we've forgotten to be human, and we've forgotten what it's like to be deeply connected to each other. And what you've talked about are those symptoms and those signs that those connections are not there anymore, and we really need to I don't like the word use rethink, but we need to rethink the way we are. We need to re-feel the way we are. We need to re-be the way we are.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So just the way we are being at the moment, we're not actually being. We're doing a lot of stuff. We're thinking a lot of stuff. But
should you?
Yeah. But we're not necessarily being a being. And being means here, means now, being present. But we're always thinking about the past, planning for the future, being worried about the fight I had yesterday, being worried about the report I have to put in tomorrow. And so we're conditioned to be like that. And that's giving us so much grief.
It's fascinating because I've had a few people not so long ago on the podcast talking about meditation and sort of being present and mindfulness and this, that, and the other. But it's interesting listening to you speak. It's almost through living and working in the world of work and going through government and then having this epiphany job and then moving forward. The stuff you're talking about here, and we're talking about from a very much if we place this first in the organisations that we put together and the way that we work and the way that we be, and then to hear you talk just then, that's coming at the similar end, just from a different journey. Does that make sense?
I believe it does.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that reaches this awakening at this point in their lives, and for me, people would say it's a midlife crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, the crisis is happening sooner, and maybe that's not such a bad thing. you do need to have a crisis in order to wake up.
Mm.
But how do you help people awaken sooner rather than continually be in crisis mode?
Mm.
And help them reach a higher level of awareness sooner so that they can actually struggle better. We will struggle.
Oh.
That is humankind's lot in life. We will be struggling. But how do you struggle in a way that is better, that is richer?
Better struggle. Mm. Can we bring about the awakening sooner? It seems that, yeah, if people are going to struggle better, but there will always be, I don't know, there may always be this point where the struggle just gets to a point that it's like, no more, and the epiphany drops in and it's like, oh, it's off now.
Mm.
I mean, it's...
How do we awaken them sooner? I'm hoping
Or is it... Yeah. Because there's a part of lived experience in here.
Yes.
Because we can read a lot of stuff. And I've had this of recent. Cognitively, I understand stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden it drops from cognitive to actual embodiment. And I've had the experience and I'm in the moment and I'm like, oh crap, that's what I read about in this book.
Mm.
Oh, I truly get it.
Mm-hmm.
How do we accelerate that?
That's why it has to be a learning journey over a period of time. And I moved away from offering one-off workshops and one-off talks to creating this learning journey, because it has to be over weeks and months for that penny to drop. It's transformation doesn't happen overnight unless it's well, it does happen overnight in some instances, but intentional transformation takes time, and people just need to be curious.
Yeah.
And I think if they have that curiosity, that's the very first step towards realization, towards an opening for something new and different to come through. Just have to be curious. But even sometimes that curiosity is squashed out of us. Yeah. Can't think like that. You can't talk like that. You can't try that. That's too outrageous. That's too silly. Yeah.
So what else do you focus on with your work?
I at the moment I'm doing some work for a couple of schools, and I'm taking part in a special program that's about bringing more creativity into schools. And so I go into 2 different schools, and I'm doing a lot with the teachers and with the students to infuse more creativity into the way they teach and the way they learn. So that's one way that I'm creating another small shift, and doing it teacher by teacher and doing it student by student. And it's been really fun, and I'm growing. And I know I'm growing because I'm feeling uncomfortable as well. There's this discomfort when I'm experiencing something new and different, and I'm saying to myself, "This is okay. This is okay to be uncomfortable. If you don't know it, you that means you're learning it." So it's been great in that respect.
What sort of exercises and things do you do with the teachers? Curious to know.
I'm actually coaching them quite a lot. And slowly introducing them to the idea of systems thinking, and getting them to see the connection between what they're doing with their students, what's happening in their personal lives, how they're interacting with the school principal and other teachers, and just helping them to see that everything that they're doing is interrelated and interdependent as well. And also teaching them the art of good questions and the art of listening intently. So I've had feedback from the teachers to say, I've been learning a lot about how to ask better questions. I'm learning so much more about my students as a result. So it seems as if it's gone to that level where it's about deepening the relationship they have with their students in order for them to be able to teach better and in order for the students to learn more deeply as well. Going back to that crux of human connection, it is the relationship that matters the most.
What makes better questions? Just as an example.
The simple task of asking why 5 times, for example.
Doing that ladder down.
And unpacking it down.
Yeah.
And drawing back the question to other things that they've been grappling with.
Yes.
Oh, so is the way you're thinking now actually related to what happened yesterday? Is that related to what you saw happening in the staff room? So helping...
Yeah, how that shaded what you're doing.
Yes. So the art of good questions is just helping them see the connections and hopefully in the process getting them to practice the art of asking good questions as well. And I'm doing that with the students.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting because they're not used to asking questions. And the teacher pointed it out to me. She said, it's always the teacher that's asking questions, but we never ask the students to ask questions of us. So I'm often in a co-learning mode when I'm with the teachers and the kids. And I've said that to the kids as well. I'm here to co-learn with you because I don't know everything. And you know some things that I don't know. So I'm here to learn as much with you as I am teaching you too. So yes, kind of empowering the students to have agency. That's a new word I've learnt as well. To have agency.
To ask questions.
And to be who they want to be.
It's interesting about asking the 5 whys behind a question. Because I used to have to explain this to junior consultants who came on board when I was a management consultant, in that the question that you get asked in a meeting by a client or a stakeholder or something is is the tip of the iceberg of a lot of thinking. And you might think that the question is this, but actually there's been layers and layers and layers of thinking underneath that. And so I always used to find that answering the first question a client asked me, almost like trying to shoot a bullseye in the dark, because I don't really know ultimately what was the concern or worry or fear or curiosity that was the origin of that question. And so I used to prompt junior consultants to just ask a couple of questions and just as simple as, that's really interesting, where's that question come from? It's also another great way of it's another great way of exposing people who just feel like that they need to add value to a meeting by chucking a question out there. Because if there is no thinking behind it, it gets exposed really quickly.
Yes.
But where there is proper thinking behind that, then you can actually get down. And then when you do go about answering the question, you're answering the original concern.
Yes.
Which means you switch the light on, you know where the target is, and you shoot it pretty much point blank.
Yes.
And and I just learnt that through, going away, writing reports for people coming back, and then they say, "Oh, this is great, Bryn, but it completely doesn't answer the question." And I'm like, but it does. The question was this, and there's the 5 pages of it. And then after they go, no, it's this, and you're like, oh, well, you didn't tell me that. And so it's like peeling it back.
Yes, and the trick with asking good questions is also challenging assumptions.
Yes.
So
'Cause that's really where you want to play.
yes, and we make so many assumptions in our heads about each other, but we don't air these assumptions often enough. So the art of asking questions is also to surface those assumptions. Why are you thinking like that? Because that's just me. Why is it you? Because that's how I was brought up. How were you brought up? I was brought up in a really strict environment. What was that strict environment like?
You were at Catholic girls' school or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then and this is where the empathy bit starts coming into play as well. Because all of a sudden you're seeing it from their point of view, and therefore your questions and your learning deepens as a result of what you know about them. And I believe that the quality of our results really depends on the quality of our relationships, in every sense of the word. Yeah. So if you want to aim for something extraordinary with your results or your outcomes, just start by getting to know the person you're working with at the very simple, basic level, and then deepening that knowledge in a way that enables you to connect with them at the next deeper level.
Yes.
So you're not just having a surface level conversation, but you're actually...
Yeah, about this, that, and the other, and football, and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It's the next level down. And it's important because then you truly, truly connect. And I found that investment in time and energy means that when you, certainly in a work sense, for me as a consultant, when I did then have to put the report together, when I had to do the work, it was actually done quite quickly. And it added value. And it hit the mark.
It saved you time, and it probably made you money.
Yes.
Yes.
I used to, another one, and it's very similar again with junior consultants, they'd be very keen to come in and like, this is what I know, I can fix your problem, because as consultants we were there to fix business problems, and this is the answer. And I saw a lot of that when I started to work for one particular global management consultancy. And I used to just almost have to hold their hand and go, just shut up for another 5 or 10 minutes, because the client will give us the answer. Because the answer is actually within the client, and he's just brought us here to try and tell him the answer. But we're not. I'm just going to sit here and listen and ask questions, and the answer will drop out. And then I'll go and build on the answer.
Yes.
And push it forwards and shape it and this, that, and the other. And then we'll truly go somewhere.
So we need to be teaching our kids how to do this from an early age. We need to be encouraging parents and teachers to be coaches. Not to tell their kids what to do and give them advice about the best way to do them, but actually coach them so that they learn themselves.
What was your parenting like to get to this?
My parenting? Whew.
That you received, not the one not that you delivered.
Yes, so coming from a Chinese culture, it's usually top down. Usually, mum and dad knows best.
Yeah.
Usually, you get given directions or instructions, and
you just do.
And you just do it. Yeah. So
and then that proliferates at school.
At school. Pretty much, yeah. So teachers are seen as authoritarian figures at school, and also a figure of authority. So you don't ever question the teacher in an Asian school. Not from my experiences, anyway. It may be different now.
But there'll be many of us that experience something similar.
Probably.
And so therefore, you can see how that plays out.
But in order for the teacher to be a good coach or to be a good facilitator, they do need smaller classes. They need to be able to provide that more personal approach, and it's hard when you've got a class of 30.
Yes.
And you're just one teacher in that classroom. So I can also understand how the system is set up in such a way that it actually prevents real innovation and real creativity to emerge, because there's pressures on getting the kids to school. There's pressures on funding schools. There's pressures on, So how do we hack the system so that?
Is it small groups at the start to build that momentum within students to have the curiosity, ask deeper questions, want to do the deeper learning, so that then in and of itself becomes a habit, so that they then become more self-sufficient, so you could actually put them in bigger classes later on once that has been installed.
I don't know the answer
I don't know.
to that.
I'm just musing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think many things just need to be adjusted and tweaked so that there's a different way and a newness enters the system in a small way. I don't think massive systems like education can actually be shifted overnight. It needs to be tweaked and adjusted, and little prototypes need to happen so that decision makers can see that something is working because it's different.
It's tricky, isn't it?
It is
Because again,
tricky.
it's like when you mentioned earlier on, and you're talking to, like a business owner about, well, how does this make me more money? How does it do this? How does it do that? Makes me more efficient, profitable. It's kind of, you got to go and experience it, then you'll know.
Yes, correct. I can't tell you.
And so that's an investment of time and energy.
And trust. You have to trust the journey is going to yield something for you.
Yeah.
And not be, dead set for this thing that you want to achieve at the end of it.
It's not as simple as, it's not quite as simple as spend 3 weeks with me, then I will teach you how to weld, then you can put metal together. But then even that opens up a doorway to cars or sculptures.
See,
bridges.
There is a craft to all of that.
Yes.
The artisan. What happened to the art of those sorts of craftsmanship? When you're welding, you can also weld a piece of art.
Yeah.
But that's no longer taken into consideration either. So
we've gone to such a place of functionality and outcome.
Exactly. What happened to the heart and soul of welding, for want of a better example?
There's the thing that springs to mind is, so I go to movement classes.
Oh, yes.
To improve the variety and quality of the movement of my body, and therefore my body as a result of it. And it stems back, the people who coach me are mentees of a guy called Ido Portal, who's out there looking at movement every day. And it's not, and his lexicon's interesting. It's not training, it's a practice. It's something you do every day. And he talks about the craftsman. And he says the craftsman becomes the master because to quote him, because he just does the fucking work. Not because there's something out the back of it. It's because he just does the work.
Yes.
And this is similar. Go do the experience.
Yes.
Don't think about the outcome. The outcome will become apparent at the point in time.
Yes.
And so you're right. It's an investment of trust. How do we sell that?
I don't know. I just have to start with people that have experienced it first.
Yes.
And hopefully it will be something that ripples out. Somebody who's experienced it will tell somebody who wants to experience it, and then it just grows like that. So it will almost be a word of mouth thing, I feel.
Yes.
So I can't over market it and sell it. I just have to believe that the people who have done it will be able to bring others along the journey. Yes. That's probably the best way of putting it.
Yes.
Bring others along the journey. It's not even to persuade or influence them. It is to bring them along.
Just to do it in and of itself, which then will bring others.
Hopefully. That's my theory anyway. We'll see how it pans out.
It's whether, those people then start acting, living, being differently. And then people get curious and want a bit of that for themselves.
But doing it in a semi-structured way. So this is where the notion of holding spaces and creating safe containers for this co-learning to occur, for the co-exploration to happen. You can't, it's, this safe container space is actually really critical in enabling the aliveness to come through. Because you're giving yourself into this process. You're trusting that this is going to do something for you. And so this safe container space is really important in ensuring that that trust goes somewhere and is nurtured and is grown, so that the people who come along on that journey is actually...
And pushed along a bit at times.
Yes.
Yeah, because these, whilst on one level these are the most basic human callings, we seem to have lost touch with them. And so therefore to re-explore and try these things back on and then sometimes get poked when something comes up for you, fear gets triggered, and sometimes we can retreat back from that, and often we know that a little bit of poking to go and meet the fear head on, so it can dissolve, because there's usually a nugget of gold sitting behind the back of it.
Yep. Correct.
So again, you hold the space for
the letting go.
Yes.
And you
to
need
collide in an adult fashion.
Yes. And you may bruise and hurt, and there will be pain.
Oh, that's great.
But that's what happens in the letting go.
Yeah.
And in the letting go, there is rebirth. Something new comes through. You poke that fear, and something else emerges. But you have to be brave to poke it. And if you don't, then things won't heal, things won't come good. So lots of courage required in the creation of something new. And the courage also comes from the letting go and being ready to face pain, to face hurt. Because it is us that creates, or maybe it's the ego or the mind that creates that.
Still part of us.
Yeah, the unconscious or whatever it is it's called. It is a part of us, but it isn't. It doesn't have to be us, if you know what I mean. Anyway, this is kind of going down the philosophical, esoteric. I didn't quite expect that.
What did you expect today?
I don't know. Let me see. What did I expect? I expected to be talking about all kinds of things, I guess.
Well, this is a container for all sorts of things, isn't it? Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm happy to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me a bit more about your involvement with Enkel. We had Adam here previously.
Enkel's an interesting system, an interesting collective. All sorts of people come to Enkel, and they come from all sorts of backgrounds. People who are born here, people who are born overseas, people who have studied different professions. There's engineers, there's consultants, there's scientists. And I think what Enkel is about saying to you can be who you want to be if you're prepared to just explore what could be possible. So future possibilities has been one of Ankle's taglines. What are future possibilities? And you can interpret that tagline in any 100 ways. And it is the possibility of yourself, the possibility of your work, the possibility of your family, the possibility of the system, the possibility of the organization you're working for. But it is just a chance to explore.
Open up to
yes.
potential and opportunity.
Yes. And I think that's what is appealing to me about Ankle. That's what drew me to Ankle too in the first place.
You said earlier on you got quite involved in it.
Very much so, yeah.
What were you doing?
Running lots of community workshops. We did some consultancy work with local governments as well, and ran some innovation and creativity workshops. But there was really that strong community focus to it. There was also the New Economy Conference that Ankle ran last year, which they are also planning to host this year, but on a much larger scale. They're hosting the national conference, so that I'm looking forward to that too.
What does Ankle do at the moment? Has it got still
It
workshops
has. It's focusing at the moment on activating the naval store in Fremantle.
Yes.
Except that it probably won't be called the naval store anymore. I think it could be called the Ankle store, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And so the focus at the moment is activating that space, and also on co-creating this national conference that is the New Economy Conference. So looking forward to actually see what emerges from those two activities. I think it sort of heralds possibly a new phase for Perth.
In what way?
That something like Ankle can be seriously considered as a change-making organization, and that it has the potential to shift people's mindsets, people's way of thinking and doing. And I think we're at that cusp at the moment, not just here in Australia, but all over the world. But I think it's significant here in WA because we've been slow adopters of many different things, and we're never leaders of big change. So I'm hoping
it's our time.
Yeah. Yes. I'm hoping that's the case. That it is our time.
There's probably less hope, more certainty with people like yourself doing things like this.
I hope so.
It's fascinating. Sometimes I wonder why I was drawn to come and live in Western Australia. And there's lots of surface and medium level answers, but then I sit here listening to people like yourself and I'm like, far out, this is exactly why I'm here, to be around things like this. And there is, I don't know, maybe because of what I do with the podcast and the extension of that to the people that I hang out with as a result of the podcast and things like that, but they just, to me, seems like an ever-growing receptivity to
I sense that too.
Things that provoke you to think in a different way and test your own personal paradigm.
I sense that too. The other thing I'm doing is bringing a really cool thing to Perth called the Chaos Pilot Masterclass.
Whoa, go
on. So when I was in Denmark recently, and I know of a Chaos Pilot from when I first joined Ankle, and there have been two major organizations that have been inspiring Ankle. One of them is Chaos Pilot and the other one is Nomads in Amsterdam. So Chaos Pilot is based in Denmark, and while I was there recently I popped in to visit them, and they run master classes over on the East Coast, and told them about my dream for building a school for changemakers, and looking for ways of exploring opportunities to make that dream come true in some ways. So the masterclass is kind of like another prototype. So Chaos Pilot is a design business school based in Denmark, and they've got this masterclass thing running, as well as a 3-year full-time program in Denmark itself, where their students do a lot of project-based learning, and these are real-world projects, and the students themselves choose these projects as well. So it's, I understand, less theory-based and more real-world application type learning that happens. But I'm keen to bring this masterclass here. The masterclass is around facilitating learning environments that are creative and innovative. So pretty much targeted at educators, but also the learning professionals, the organizational development people in companies, for example. And it's about how do you facilitate an environment that encourages people to learn in a way that's creative. So yes, I'm keen to see what sort of response we get to the masterclass, which will happen in September. We're also having a taster event in July, and that will be a bit of a prelude to the masterclass as well. So yes, I thought I'll just pop that in there because it's an opportunity to see another kind of education take place.
Yes.
In WA, another kind of learning that can take place, and learning that's more experience-based and more immersive.
Yes.
Yes.
I like that. There's just a growing focus on learning and growing. So what have you learnt about yourself in this journey?
What have I learnt? Here's an interesting thing, right? I've learnt that, well, I knew I was going to die one day, but I've learnt to be okay with the notion of dying.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Tell me how that came about.
And it's because I've been meditating out in nature and feeling this connection to earth and to birds and to trees and to air and to space, and suddenly understanding that I am actually part of all of that, and that if I were to die one day, I would just disappear into all of that, and that's okay. So before, I think I was too much in my head, and my mind would be saying to me, what's going to happen to you? Where are you going to go? What happens to your body? What happens to everything else about you? But actually, my mind isn't just about my mind. That was my mind telling me that my mind was number one. But really, it's not the only number one. That everything else about me is also number one. So I've been able to kind of be aware of that too, and understanding that yes, learning to be okay with death has been part of my growth.
How has that changed life? Because I've always wondered whether that there may be certain nodes in our belief patterns, death being one of them, big themes. Death, life, love, relationships, stuff like that. But let's take death. And at its very core, you could either, one of the options could be you embrace it, like you have, or you can reject it. And like, denial, it's not going to happen to me, or it's not going to happen to me for ages, or, that very sort of fearful part of it, so reject it. And then if you play that out as a real base sort of belief, how does that paint life and some of the decisions you make without realising that that's sitting at the bottom of the well talking to you? So I'm just wondering how...
Yes, it's made me realise that life, as we know it, needs to be about living. So I want to help create organizations that are alive in every sense of the word. And being alive means not just extracting from the ground and extracting from people, but giving life back as well.
The whole of nature contributes.
Yes.
To itself.
Yes. So this ties back to another colleague of mine who's from Enkel as well, who is across the whole circular economy thing. Life is circular, and us as people working in organizations, it's important to acknowledge this circularity of life, not just in the way we live, but in the way we work. Because the way we're working is actually literally killing us.
Yes.
Yes. And taking away much of our life. It doesn't make sense that both sets of parents may go off to work full time and leave their children to be cared for by other people, and then your quality time with them is 10% of your life. And
what's that role model?
And I don't want to knock that either, because that is people's prerogative. That's what they want to do, but it's not life giving. We have to make money too, people will say, and I know that too. So I don't know, it's a conundrum that we're finding ourselves in. How do we shift from a place of deadness to a place of aliveness, in a way that doesn't negate what we're currently doing, but transitions us into a space of giving. I don't know, because this is the conundrum that we're in. The current way of the status quo is we have to make money. We have to be able to, have things
transact.
Yes, but how do you then start putting your foot forward into the future and make that slow move across, while this foot here is still in the current paradigm, and doing so in a way that enables you to continue to live in more ways than one. I don't know. It's just one of those philosophical questions, I think. But I think it is possible, as long as we can be intentional about it. Yeah.
I've started to hold the belief now that if you pose a question such as that, then there will be an answer. It sits on the other side of the question, out there in the ether. In fact, I'm beginning to question whether, if the question has been posed, the answer was already there, and now it's just poking you to ask it so it can be revealed. And that's a cool way of approaching these super wicked complexes. The answer's actually trying to come to you.
I believe it is.
That's why it's poking you to ask the question. And be revealed. What does the next... There you go. What do the next 3 to 5 years look like for you? Probably answering that question.
Yes, doing lots more...
Now the answer's on the way.
Doing lots more prototypes, but doing it with other people. actually, and doing it with more people, and doing it with different sorts of people as well, and finding and co-creating tribes. And I think that's where that lostness of people as well is coming from, is that we're kind of tribeless. And that tribelessness relates to a lack of purpose in our lives. So
Tribes of meaning as
Yes.
opposed to tribes that...
tribes of meaning, absolutely.
Tribes as opposed to tribes that gather around a football team or
Well, that can be meaningful too. But as long as...
I
but-
ended up in a debate about that the other day. Go on.
Well, if you create, if you're using football as a way of doing good,
Correct.
yes, and creating social impact, then that is extremely meaningful. Yeah.
If it becomes a means for separatism.
Yes, or a means for aggression, then it's
Yeah.
not cool.
Speaks for itself.
Yes.
What else does the future hold?
I want to see young people move forward into this space of co-creation, because I'm middle-aged now, and I'm in a place where I can hold the spaces for the younger generation to emerge forward, to come through. So I'm hoping that more and more young people will be able to come help co-create this space with me, and carry this kind of space forward into the future. Yeah. And when I say young people, I'm talking people in their 30s, 20s at this stage. Not sure about the teens yet. Yes.
How do you keep yourself grounded and in all of this? Because it's very heady stuff at times.
I wouldn't say it's heady stuff,
No,
because
it's
I don't
not,
spend a lot of
actually.
time
As soon as
thinking about
As soon as
it.
it came out of my mouth, I thought, no, it's not heady stuff at all. But how do you keep yourself grounded? Or does the work itself keep you grounded?
It does. Well, meditation helps me as well. Being out in nature is very grounding. So I try and do that every morning for at least half an hour if I can. How do I keep... I ground myself when I hear and see shifts in other people. So there is no... For me, there is no ego in that, where I go, wow, Elaine, you're really great. You're doing this job and you're actually making people feel inspired and feel awesome. I'm just going, when I hear or sense or experience a shift in someone, I'm connecting then
Yes.
into this deeper space of going, yes, this is good. This is right. This is who I am. And so that keeps me grounded, because this is what it means to be who I am. Yes.
Love it. Love it. One of the last questions that I always ask my guests is, if you could take a small nugget of information and upload it into the collective consciousness so we all just get it, what would that be?
I would say find space in your daily routine where it is just you and nature and no one else. Even if it just means spending 10 minutes by yourself every morning, and then building up that amount of time and space into bigger and bigger windows of opportunity where it is just you and not your mind or your ego or your subconscious, but it's just the real you coming through. So yeah, creating the space in your daily routine if you can, to do that. Really super important, because we don't have enough time to ourselves, and that's a cliche, right? But it is literally, you're not making time to be, and you need to make time to be.
And there's nobody's fault other than your own for that. What is it? I heard, and I mentioned this on a previous podcast, when somebody said, was it, I don't have time to meditate for 20 minutes. Then the answer to that is you should meditate for 60.
Doesn't even actually have to be closed eye, sitting in cross-legged fashion and meditating. It is just actually maybe sitting by the ocean and watching the waves break. That's it. Or sitting in your garden and observing the leaves and the flowers on your trees, and that's it.
Or at this time of year, watch flames in a fire pit.
Yeah.
Elaine, it's been fucking awesome talking to you today. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been super powerful.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been awesome. If people want to come and find you, where can they find you?
They can look me up on my website, which is www.thefourthspace.com.au. They can contact me that way. I'm also on LinkedIn, on Twitter, all the usual social media stuff.
You're out there.
I'm out there, yes.
Out there. Thank you so much for taking time to come and talk to me.
Thank you.
Cheers.